Hello everyone! Our group is excited to present on the topic of reader response criticism. The reporters of this topic are Kristine Jongay, John Troy Labadan, and Heavenly Love Mongaya. In our discussion, we will explore how this approach shows the importance of the reader's personal experiences and interpretations in understanding literary text. Reader response criticism emerged in the late 1960s and 1970s, primarily in the United States and Germany. During this time, scholars began to recognize that the way we read and interpret literature is deeply influenced by our personal backgrounds, emotions, and cultural contexts. It arose as a reaction against new criticism, which emphasized the text's formal elements while neglecting the reader's role in meaning making. So, new criticism was dominant before reader response criticism gained traction. It concentrated on analyzing the text structure, language, and themes without considering how different readers might engage with it. This approach often led to a one-size-fits-all interpretation of literature, ignoring the rich diversity of perspectives that the readers bring. In contrast, reader response criticism argues that understanding a text is not just about its formal qualities, but also about how readers interact with it on a personal level. The movement argues that readers actively create meaning through their personal experiences and interpretations, challenging the notion of fixed meanings within text. This idea is revolutionary because it suggests that there is no single correct interpretation of a text. Instead, each reader brings their unique life experiences, beliefs, and emotions into their reading process. For instance, two readers might read the same poem and come away with entirely different meanings based on their own histories and feelings. This perspective encourages us to embrace our individuality as readers and to recognize that our interpretations are valid contributions to the conversation about a text.
So next is the importance of reader response. So this emphasizes the importance of the reader's relationship to the text. So in order for an author to achieve their intended purpose when writing a text, a reader must engage with and react to what has been written, such as reader response criticism asks the reader to examine, explain, and defend their interpretation of a text in order to facilitate the expression of an author's message. Reader response criticism presupposes that a reader will actively assign meaning to a text, an interpretation which can often be associated with other literary lenses, such as feminist or psychoanalytic critics. Although not usually done so consciously, the key component to reader response criticism is the belief that the way a reader approaches a text, including their reaction to the characters, plot, and structure of a text, and creates its meaning. Types of literary approaches. First is Hans Robert Jauss, 1921 to 1997. So, the work of Hans Robert Jauss takes a reader response approach that considers how society and time period influence readers' interpretation of text. So, based on the culture and time period the reader belongs to, they will have a certain kind of horizon of expectation. So, readers' horizon of expectation are always changing. So, as the years pass and times change, it is the critic's job to consider the effect of context on how readers read and how authors write. Next is Wolfgang Iser, 1926 to 2007. Iser worked alongside with Yao, so Iser came up with the concept of the implied reader and placed the importance on the reading experience of reading a written work for the first time. So, and then as a whole. So, Iser argued that a text has what he calls response inviting structure that guide reader interpretation. Next is Louise Rosenblatt, Blatt is a highly influential critic who saw a reading as a transaction between reader and text, where both are equally important. So Blatt is one of the reader response critic that thinks there are acceptable and less acceptable interpretation of text. Not all are valid. So for Blatt, the text acts as a stimulus to the reader that invites them to find personal interpretation and as a blueprint that disciplines the reader's interpretation so that it doesn't stray too far from the content of the text. Next is Stanley E. Fish. The concept, the context in which readers read text is important to Stanley because Fish is interested in the impact of the interpretive community to which a reader belongs influences the meaning they garner from a text. So the second key focus of Fish is how readers experience text as they progress through them from beginning to end. Next is Norman Holland. Norman Holland focuses on how readers identify themes impact the reading of text. So he believes that readers' life experience and psychologies, example the impact of childhood, unresolved issues, and etc., affect how they read. So for example, if a reader has a good or bad relationship with their parents, this is likely to influence how they read parental figures in a text. This is what a this is what is known as a psychoanalytic approach to reader response criticism. Like other response critics, Holland disagrees with the idea of object meaning, arguing that reader may have similar interpretation insofar as they share similar identity themes. Lastly, David Bleach puts forward a radical reader response theory known as subjective reader response criticism. Bleak argued that reader responses are the text. There is no text beyond the meaning that the reader come up with. So this in turn means when critics analyze text, what they are analyzing are the reader's responses which constitute the text.
Good day, everyone. I'm John Labadan, and I'm gonna add more info regarding on the topic reader response criticism. Reader response criticism is important because it emphasizes the reader's role in creating meaning in a text. Reader response criticism is a literary theory that places the reader at the center of the meaning-making process, suggesting that a text's significance is not fixed but it is actively shaped by the reader's individual interpretation. This approach highlights that meaning is not an inherent quality of the text alone. Rather, it emerges through the interaction between the text and the reader's personal experience, emotions, and imagination. Reader response criticism suggests that readers are co-creators of a text, and that the text only has meaning once readers engage with it. Reader response criticism argues that readers are essential co-creators of meaning because the text itself is not complete until it is read and interpreted. According to this theory, a text has no fixed meaning or truth in isolation. Instead, it relies on the reader's engagement to bring it to life. The reader's emotion, personal history, cultural background, and imagination all influence the way they interpret the story, creating a unique interaction with a text that would not exist otherwise. Reader response criticism examines how different readers, with their own personal actions and cultural influence, create meaning from a text. Diverse interpretations. Reader response criticism emphasizes the idea of diverse interpretations, suggesting that each reader's background, personality, and cultural perspective bring unique insights to a text, rather than seeking a single, definitive meaning. This approach celebrates the multiplicity of meanings that emerge from a diverse readership. That's all for reader response criticism. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.